We're jumping right into the action here. I'm buying into a 100,000 guaranteed tournament here at my local casino in Indianapolis. This is a $500 entry. We start with 40,000 in chips and the levels are 40 minutes long. It's 20 minutes into the first level and the blinds are 100, 200 with a 280. I get dealt pocket jacks in under the gun plus 2 position. I lead with a 3x the big blind bet, which is 600. Low jack is going to make the call and it's folded to the big blind, who looks down at his cards and seems to like what he sees, then decides to 3-bet me to 2100. I think for a moment and I just make the call and low jack folds it. We're heads up to the flop and the flop comes out not good for me, but when my opponent leads with 1300, I think it's not much, and with that being said, I go ahead and make the questionable call. Then the turn comes out a beautiful jack of hearts. So when the villain checks it to me, I'm going to try to bet here for value for 5,000. My opponent thinks for a moment and then decides to check raise me to 16,000. Now I'm a little worried here because he just check raised me on the turn and that is representing a pretty strong hand. And he also 3-bet me pre-flop and led on the flop. So I really don't like this re-raise. I mean, there's a bunch of hands that do beat me here, like aces, kings, and queen 10. The hands I beat is probably ace king and any weak ace or weak king, but I don't see those hands really, check raising me on the turn here. So I'm not quite sure what he has that I beat here other than ace king. I do have a set and it's so hard for me to let this go right here. So with that being said, I make the call. And the pot is now at almost 40,000 and the river comes out a king of spade. Ouch. That really is tough for me. Putting my opponent on ace king and then my opponent shoves all in covering me. I'm honestly just lost for words here. I mean, what exactly is he representing here? And what hands can I actually beat that might be doing this? The only hand I can really see that I beat is maybe queen 10, maybe king queen with trip kings. But the hands that beat me are pretty significant here. He could have aces, he could have kings, he could have ace king, he could have king jack, he could have king 6 possibly. I highly doubt that, but I guess it's possible, but again, I highly doubt that. I don't see my opponent 3-betting me pre-flop with something like pocket 6s or queen 10, and I really don't see a hand like king queen check raising me on the turn. So I don't think my opponent has that, and I don't think my opponent would be shoving all in on the river with something like queen 10 on a paired board. It just doesn't make sense. I can't believe I'm actually thinking about folding this hand, but I'm really leaning towards that because I just don't see the hands that I would beat here that he could possibly have. And we're still early in the tournament. I would be left with 20,000 in chips, so I still have a pretty good stack to fight with. And I really don't want to risk my tournament life here given this situation and what he could potentially have in this spot, 3-betting me pre-flop, check raising the turn, leading the flop, and going all in on the river. I mean, I just don't see what I can beat here with an opponent that's doing something like that. So with that being said, I make the very, very, very reluctant and tight fold. And then I tell my opponents, nice hand. He says, thank you, and shows his cards, showing me ace 7 of hearts. Wow. I just cannot believe that just happened. Wow. Complete air from this guy, putting me to the test, and he got it through. Ouch. Well done, my friend. Well done.
My fault. Nice hand, sir. A7. Nice fucking bluff. A7. Oh, fuck, nice bluff.
All right, I get a table change here, and the blinds are now 100, 300, 300. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of frustrated with the way I played that last hand, where the guy had a7 and completely buffed me out of a big pot. And to be honest with you, it kind of messed with me the rest of this tournament, and I'm just trying to stay level-headed here and remain calm, but it has been kind of getting to me, to be honest with you. But we're still playing, and I get dealt pocket queens in the hijack position. Under the gun +2 raises it up to 1400. I decide to 3-bet it to 4000. It's folded around to the hijack, who makes the call, and we're heads up to a flop that brings out a king of diamond, and I really don't like to see that card. And with me being short stack here, I'm pretty reluctant to bet. So after he checks, I check it back to him, and then the turn brings a 7 of club. And with the 7 of club coming out, that doesn't really change much. I'm still kind of worried about the king. Looking back at this footage now, I would usually bet in this spot after it's checked to me. But again, I'm still kind of messed up from that hand mentally. So with that being said, I did decide to check it again, and the river comes out another king, and we both decide to check it again. He announces he has a pair of 9s, and I show my hand, and we take it down. We probably could have got more value out of him there, especially on the river. In this situation, I know mindset and, being able to stay calm in these type of situations in a big poker game, it's really, really important. And when you are not mentally there, it does mess with your game, and that can really hurt your overall strategy and your overall gameplay throughout the game. So when I check twice, I don't think he's putting me on a king in that spot, and I think I did miss some value again. But like I said, my head's not all the way there, unfortunately, and I was battling with something that I shouldn't be battling with. I should be remaining calm in that spot. That's kind of what's happening here. So it is what it is. Looking back on this footage, we just got to chalk it up and learn from our mistakes here. Our next playable hand, we get dealt ace queen suited in the low jack position. The blinds are now 200, 400, 400, and +2 limps in. I decide to pump it up to 1200. Hijack, small blind, big blind, and the original limper +2 also makes the call. So we're going to a multi-way, 5-way pot here, and the flop comes out pretty bad for us. All low cards, and there's some flush draws and straight draws out there. So when it's checked to me, I decide to check it as well, and everyone else decides to check it around, so that's pretty good for me. And then the turn comes out a jack of spade, which is a pretty good card for me. It brings in a backdoor flush draw for me, and when it's checked to me, I decide to bet 3,000, and hijack's gonna call, and now we're heads up to a river that brings a blank for me. But there is a club, and I'm not going to win this hand by checking it, that's for sure. So with that being said, I decide to raise it up to 5,000 to make it seem like I'm betting for value, and my opponent unfortunately snap calls me, showing us jack 10 of diamonds for the pair of jacks, and I lose another pot. Next up, we get dealt ace king of diamonds, and the hijack decides to raise it up to 1,600. Button and small blind both make the call. I'm in the big blind, and I just kind of just want to make the call here to be a little deceiving and see what comes out on the flop. And I don't think anybody's going to put me on a premium here if it does come in my favor. And if it does come in the big blind's calling range, that would also be good for me. So with that being said, I decide to just call it and see what happens. The flop comes out pretty good for a big blind calling range. Obviously not for my actual hand, but I could have all the sets here, all the two pairs. I could have all the straights here. So it comes out pretty amazing for a big blind. But I want to check it here just to see what everyone else does, because it is a four-way pot here. So with that being said, I do check it, and everyone else surprisingly checks around. So that's pretty good for me. The turn brings out a 9 of club. Now, that's not something I'm really worried about, considering I could still have a lot of hands beat here given my big blind range. Calling range. But the small blind is going to lead this time with 2,500. I decide to make the call and see what everyone else does, and they decide to fold, so it's pretty good. We're heads up to a river that brings a 5 of club. Again, this is also pretty good for my range, and the opponent checks it to me. Now, you got to think he didn't raise pre-flop, and he checked it twice to me. So with that being said, I don't think he's very strong here. And again, this board is heavily in my favor. So with that said, I decide to shove it all in for 8,300. And he doesn't think much before calling and showing us pocket queens. That is very unfortunate for us. We bust with our first bullet, and I really don't want to give up here. So I'm going to fire another bullet.
A few levels went by and we've been pretty much card dead since we rebought, and unfortunately we're already at about a half starting stack. The blinds are climbing at this point. We're at 500, 1,000, 1,000 ante, and this time we get dealt king 8 off in the big blind. Low jack raises it up to 2,800, and button small blind make the call, and with about 10,000 in the pot already, it's only about 1,800 more to call for me, so I go ahead and make the call with a questionable hand considering the pot odds. The flop comes out and brings me top pair. It's going to check around to the button that bets 4,000. Small blind folds it, and I call with top pair. I'm not going anywhere just yet, and low jack is going to fold after I call. So we're heads up to a turn that brings a 7 of hearts. And I go ahead and check it to my opponent to see what he does. And he thinks for a moment and then raises to 5,000. After thinking for a moment, for some reason, I just don't think he's strong right here. For some reason, I think he's bluffing me. And with that being said, I go ahead and make the call again. And the river comes out at ace of spade. I check once more, and now my opponent bets 6,500. Now, this is strictly a hero call at this point. I lose to a lot right here. I mean, I could lose to a better king. I can lose to an ace. There's flushes out there. There's a potential straight, although I don't put him on something like 4-6. So I don't think he has a straight here. But there is a lot of hands that beat me, and this is strictly a hero call if, he's bluffing. So with that being said, I make the call with my pair of kings to see that my opponent has a made 2 pair of aces and kings. Once again, my read is completely off. Ever since that big hand I lost in the beginning of the tournament, my mind has completely been messing with me, and I have been doing pretty terrible and making bad plays, bad calls, bad all-ins. I mean, this tournament I've just played terrible. I haven't played this bad in a long time, and me taking that big hand the wrong way, it mentally messed with me, and I've just been playing bad all around ever since. So it is what it is at this point. We're going to chalk this up as another loss and move on to the next hand.
All right, we come back after break and the blinds are now 600, 1200, 1200. I wake up with 9, 10 of clubs on the button. Hijack is going to decide to raise it up to 2500 after it's folded to him. And I'm only sitting on 4 big blinds here. So I think 9, 10 suited is a great hand to get it all in with only 4 big blinds. I mean, the other option is to fold. I couldn't call this because it's taking half of my stack. So I think the only other option is really to shove or fold here. So with that being said, I decide to shove it with my 4 big blinds, and it's folded around to the hijack, who calls, and we are heads up to a run out.
Blind structure started off with 1 blind, 1, 2, 1, 3,
How
and then
much?
2, 4 before the end. Yeah, we dominated. King 9 of diamond versus 9, 10 of club.
Oh my god.
GG's.
Alright, well, there you guys have it. 2 bullets down the drain, and I'm extremely disappointed with the way I played today. I mean, I don't think I was mentally prepared to that guy show me the bluff when I had jacks full. It really messed with me. I'm not gonna lie, it really messed with me, and I let it get the best of me. You know, I usually don't let that happen, but I think I was just so emotionally involved into this tournament. I've been wanting to play it so bad since I've heard it was going to come here a month ago or so, something like that. And as soon as something bad happened, I let it get to me. I probably shouldn't fired the second bullet. I should have probably just went back home and took a day off and fired the second bullet on day 2. Or day 1A, or 1B, I should say. My mind is crazy right now, you guys. I've made some bad plays, some bad bluffs where I punted where I shouldn't have. I made some bad calls when I shouldn't have made a call, thinking, you know, my opponent was bluffing. And everything is just all around bad. That just goes to show you how important mindset is in this game, because as soon as you have the wrong mindset, it could go downhill from there. And I don't think I was necessarily on tilt. I mean, I wasn't angry, I wasn't like, you know, going full tilt or anything like that, but my mind shifted, and that's all it took. So when you guys are in these big games and just playing poker in general, we gotta remain level-headed no matter what. And there's nothing I really can do at this point. It's a loss, and we got to suck it up, and we got to go back to the drawing board. So unfortunately, it is what it is, and hopefully we can come out of this. I probably need to take some time off and just get back to studying, and then maybe we go back at it next week, you guys. See you guys next time. Peace.